Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast. This is the premier podcast for the World Cup. It has now started. Qatar got off to a really bad start against Ecuador. A former West Ham player run that match. England today, 6-2. Wales versus USA. We don't know. Currently going on 0-0 in the first half, I still believe. But more to come in this podcast, not just World Cup. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has been sacked by Rangers. Gerrard's tipped to go back. Ronaldo's been sacked. He's offered himself to Real Madrid for 6 months to cover for the injured Benzema. And TeamViewer are looking at pulling the plug on their £235 million shirt sponsorship at Manchester United after Ronaldo's revealing interview. With me this week, as always, Mr. Michael Hawes. How you doing?
Oh, very well, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I did watch England. I'm still not convinced it's coming home, but we'll get to that in a minute. If you haven't already, before we start, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. It really helps out and lets us know that you're sort of enjoying. Get involved in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on any of our topics, whether that be on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever thing you're watching us on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. Get involved in whatever way you can. But Mike, I think we'll start with Qatar. They lost to Ecuador quite decisively. We thought it was going to be a little bit of a funny game. But what do you make of their chances of progressing out of that group?
Slim to none, and I think Slim has just gone home. To be honest, I was actually surprised that the game was as close as it was, because I'm not sure if that could have been a potential cricket score. Obviously, we saw a bit of controversy within the early stages of the game, so I'm not sure if they were trying to do something just to not embarrass the host nation, because I think that's the first time a host nation hasn't won the opening game. I believe. I think I heard that stat. So I don't know, but I would be very surprised if. In fact, no, I don't know whether I would be surprised or not. No, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make it out of the group, because I don't think they're very good. I think it was a farce that they got the World Cup anyway. Yep. There's a lot of stuff that's already gone wrong, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a little bit, so I won't spoil the surprise. But yeah, I don't think they've got enough in them to go out of the group.
No, and their Aspire Academy, which is currently being run by former Premier League favourite Tim Cahill, is producing some decent players. I don't think they did themselves any harm.
Disservice.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of those players not born in Qatar. It's not a big country, and if you spread how far away the stadiums are from each other, you're looking at sort of the size of Yorkshire. So it's not a particularly big country whatsoever. With that being said, England played the second game in the World Cup, and we did run out 6-2 winners. Now, sort of to be expected against Iran, although they are the 20th top-ranked team in the world. When you look at, we didn't play defensively. 6-2. What do you make of that? Do you think that's a good score, or do you think it should have been more?
I think that it was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. From looking at how we were, I think, prejudging the team.
Yep.
From when the squad was selected, we did say that it was quite defensive minded, too many midfielders, some of the wrong players going to the tournament. But I've got to say, I was pleasantly surprised that even when we were like 3-0 up at one point, the fact that we were looking out to go and get more is very unlike a Gareth Southgate England team.
Yep.
So I've got to say, I'm very positive. I know it's only the first game, so I'm not going to get all Arsenal top of the league mentality on anyone just yet. But I'm very, very happy with the first game on how we played.
Yeah, we'll say it is one of those. It is one of those fixtures that we expected a win. I think regardless, that was the game we're going to win in this competition. Harry Kane played 75 minutes, and he didn't score a goal. He didn't have a shot on target, for that matter. Callum Wilson come on, set up a goal. I think Kane got 1 assist as well. Do you think his role has changed from being the sort of that target man in the middle, the main man? He was dropping deeper, letting Sterling and Saka run on. Do you think that will bode well attacking wise in future games, or do you think that's something we're only going to see against lesser opposition?
No, I think he certainly had to adapt his role, even at Tottenham, because he was never really been one for pace anyway. But we see it over the last season, that his role has significantly changed. I know he was cropping up with goals as well.
Yep.
But his assist total, I think, was astronomical for the Premier League. So it is definitely seeing his role he has to adapt, because it doesn't have the pace anymore. Yeah, he's got the physicality. Yeah, he can still bang in goals, but I think for this tournament, we will more than likely see a different Harry Kane to what we have seen over the last 2 tournaments I think he's been in. Even saying that, I mean, when you look at his performances in the Euros, I think it was, even coming away with the Golden Boot, he still, or a lot of those were from penalties. Very few in open play. So I definitely think he'll get on the score sheet if there are any penalties involved, 100%. And obviously if he's on the pitch. I've got to be honest, I didn't really think much of him today.
Yep.
Other than the assist. But again, that could just be due to the fact that he's either been told he has to change, or he's just naturally changed his position. It's almost like he's playing... The number 9 is playing the false 9 position.
Yeah, so that same role he played under Mourinho and got all those assists.
Exactly.
So my biggest concern could have answered itself, but I'm not convinced at the other end of the pitch. So we did concede 2 goals against Iran. They had 3 shots on target, which is more concerning considering... Out the whole game, we dominated in shots, in possession, in absolutely everything. But they still managed to get 2 past us. Now, the first goal I will put down to a fault of a missed tackle and an out of position by Harry Maguire, who very shortly after left the pitch holding his head under concussion protocol, as far as we know. So, that being said, he has to... if it was under concussion protocol, he potentially has to sit out for 10 days. So we could see him at a later part in the tournament. But that one missed tackle, which led to that first goal, which, if I'm honest, I think if Ramsdale or Pope was in goal, it wouldn't have been a goal. It's only because Jordan Pickford's got little arms that it went in well over his head. But are you convinced defensively that we can keep up with some of the more astute attacking teams in this tournament?
I never really fancy our defence. Anyway, I know we've got options this year with the likes of Kieran Trippier. Even today, I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
John Stones, Ben White is another option now that potentially seeing Harry Maguire out, that we do have that cover. We've got Connor Cody. We have got options, but I will stand by the fact that we will always be our own downfall when it comes to defending. I'd very much say the same about Arsenal. Sorry to keep bringing it back to club football, but I think with the ability that England have, we do have quite a substantial attacking options. And like I mentioned earlier, I think it's actually a refreshing change to see us go on the front foot for a change. And I think we may have to adopt that mentality for this tournament, that we just have to try and outscore our opponents. And I know that sounds like a ridiculous Michael Owenism. But if we concede 2, we need to score 4. So not even by a 1 goal margin. We need to go out and get goals early, because towards the end of the game, I think there's going to be tired minds. We've already seen in some of the Premier League fixtures, fatigue already setting into the players due to the fixture congestion. So I do think there are going to be some tired minds already.
Yep.
And as we get into the latter stages of the game, obviously the heat's not going to help. The team's only been thrown together since last Tuesday.
Yep.
So there's not really much time to get the same level of understanding as with your own Premier League club. But I think we'll do okay. But yes, it is a concern.
Yep, fair enough. And just a quick update in our group. USA are 1-0 up against Wales at half-time. I think his name's Timothy Weah, George Weah's son, has put away a lovely pass from Christian Pulisic of Chelsea, who's run through the middle of Wales, essentially unopposed, put a lovely weighted ball in, and he's just poked it past Wayne Hennessy, which is a bit of a weird choice for goalkeeper. But yeah, so they are currently drawing with us, sitting second in the group, meaning that if it stays the same, then we will be going in 3 points each on Friday. Let's look at something that we always like to be a little bit controversial: VAR. So in the first game, we see that the new offside technology work in some senses. I don't. Now, by letter of the law, yes, it was offside, but was it really offside? Do you know what I mean? There was more go on. It wasn't a direct attribution to goal. After that, the goalkeeper mucked it up again, but two players have to be behind the ball. One of them is usually the goalkeeper. It wasn't, and his knee was offside. It ruled off Enner Valencia's first goal, which meant his hat-trick didn't count. But do you think that should have been explained better? Because it seemed to me like lots of people on Twitter and online didn't really understand the offside rule and were saying, well, no, there's still a player, he's still in front of the last defender. He wasn't. What do you make of the situation?
I think the same with everything about this World Cup. There needs to be more clarity on some stuff.
Yep.
But I understand what you mean, actually, because when I went onto Twitter yesterday, there seemed to be loads of people questioning the decisions and all this sort of stuff. And you had some people that were, I think, up to date with the knowledge and stuff, so we're able to correct it. I mean, you do get the occasional ask. I was like, don't you know, I understand how football works and all this sort of shit. But yeah, some extra clarity wouldn't go amiss. I'm interested to see how it works for the remainder of the tournament. Obviously, there are things that have already gone wrong so far with technology and stuff. Not necessarily just within within the stadiums, but outside the stadiums as well. So I'll be interested to see how the technology is adapted and used within the remainder of the tournament. Yeah.
So the other incidents I do want to mention, obviously Harry Maguire, and I think it was Declan Rice for one corner, were wrestled to the floor. Physically wrestled. VAR didn't want to know, didn't look at it. Iran got one of their goals from a penalty, which was a shirt pull by John Stones, but not to the same level. So we're already seeing the inconsistencies there. In the Senegal versus the Netherlands game, there was a couple of shirt pulls in that, a couple of penalty appeals. VAR again didn't really want to know, but it seems to be inconsistent throughout. So we're seeing more of the Premier League sort of VAR than we are everywhere else. Do you think it's time, if this goes really badly, there's going to be international backlash over VAR? Do you think the Premier League may bow to it and maybe scrap it? Or do you think it's here to stay regardless and we just have to put up with complete controversies and not being consistent in any way, shape or form for the rest of our footballing lives?
Unfortunately, I do think there's going to be a case of if VAR is here to stay. I think too much money's been pumped into it for it not to be used. I will be very surprised if we just decided to go, do you know what? It's not good enough. We don't appreciate it in our game. It's causing more problems than it's worth. Let's just scrap it off. I really don't see that happening. We have seen I suppose some improvements, not very many, but there are times where we go, okay, yeah, that was the correct decision and all that. But I'd say by and large, we're always going to be hit with inconsistencies because a lot of the stuff is subjective.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've spoken about countless times throughout what we decide, what we view as one decision. Normally when it goes against our own teams, it's VAR shit, but no, it's always going to be inconsistent because there's that human element in there. And I know this new one is supposed to speed up the decision making for offsides and all this sort of stuff. But I think whilst there's still a human operating it, we're still going to see inconsistencies, as we've already seen.
Yeah, well, so to say, I think you're right, if I'm totally honest. I do think you're right. It'd be nice for it to be consistent. And it would be nice for it to be consistent at the World Cup, so we could then point around and go, actually, it's the Premier League that are bad. But that doesn't seem to be the case. One last thing about the World Cup, which I think is an interesting point, which I don't think many people have really picked up on. So the One Love captain's armband, which is in support for the LGBT plus community, was ruled out by FIFA. They banned it. They said it's a political statement. We're in a country where that's frowned upon. So therefore, we don't want political statements in football. You can't wear it. Which all the captains have sort of, so thus far in the tournament, have gone with and bowed to their decisions. Some of the pundits saying, well, they should have just taken the yellow card. Well, actually, no, if it's been banned by FIFA, there will be some retrospective action for doing so. So probably be wise not to. The interesting thing being is on the BBC, Alex Scott was wearing a One Love armband, which I thought was strange because she no longer plays football. She is only a pundit, but with doing so against what FIFA have said, because it's a political statement, being on the British Broadcasting Channel, being someone who tries to be independent of any sort of political statements, and it being hosted in a country where women are classed as second-class citizens, do you think we will see much more of her? Because my thoughts on it are she will probably be removed from broadcasting, one, for her own safety in that country, and two, because it's making a political statement that shouldn't be made on that channel. What do you make of that whole situation?
It's a very difficult one, isn't it? Because I know that FIFA come out and said there's going to be repercussions for displaying the armbands and all that sort of stuff. And I know there's even the comments and stuff that came out yesterday from I think it was Gary Lineker or it was Gary Lineker, basically saying that we should be standing up to it all. And I suppose to an extent I agree to it. And interestingly, we were having a discussion very much like this the other day. And I think I kind of get it from the equal opportunities and treating people fairly and all this sort of stuff. I completely get it. But at the same time, it's very difficult from. I'm trying to think how to say this without coming across as an arsehole.
Are you going along the lines of what I think you are, which is along my sort of view of culturally, that is their belief, and we are being hosted by them, so it would only be appropriate for the short time that we are visiting their country to go by the law of the land. And I think there's a big thing over here about if people come over here, they should bow to our laws and not be able to do what they like. And I think, in most part, that is right. If you go to a different country, you're subject to their laws, and actually being aware of everything going on in the world and the differences in peoples and belief systems and things like that is it's only respectful to go with what they're putting down, essentially. Not to say that necessarily morally that's right, or that doesn't fit in with your belief system, but I think you have to be able to take one step removed and go, actually, respectfully, that's your deal. No one has to go there. No one has to watch it. No one has to. It's a choice. And if you're choosing to involve yourself with that, with travelling, with whatnot, then it would only be fair to respect the wishes of the nation that are hosting it.
Yes.
Spot on. It's a bit hard. It is very hard to put out there eloquently. But I think that sort of sums it up.
Yes.
And say, I think the fact that FIFA said we don't want any political statements, and she's made one on that channel that is very much about being impartial. I think she could be in hot water, if I'm totally honest. So we will wait and see. I'm sure there'll probably be an apology at minimum come out at some point. But yeah, whether that goes any further, I don't know. So, moving on from the World Cup, Giovanni van Bronckhorst has been sacked after a bit of a miserable display from Rangers in the Champions League, and they're not particularly pulling up trees in the Scottish Premier League, considering it's only really a two-club team. Oh, sorry, a two-club league, and they went unbeaten, didn't they, under Gerrard? So he's now been sacked. Gerrard is out of a job. Do you think he might go back, or do you think he'll distance himself from the job? Because I think Sean Dyche and there's one other geezer who I'd not really heard of that have been linked with it.
I think that's a tough one. Because obviously he did so well under his first tenure at Rangers. As you said, undefeated. I think Rangers are currently 9 points off of a leader Celtic as it stands at the moment. But I'm not sure if they're pulling the trigger too early. I say too early. I think he's been in for a season and a half now. So I kind of get it. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm just getting so sick of this whole sacking managers because results aren't going your way. You have to sometimes ride out those opportunities. You're not gonna win the league unless you're Man City year in, year out. Obviously, you're going to strengthen. Your opponents are going to strengthen. They might strengthen in the areas which are your weaknesses, and obviously they then come and flaunt those weaknesses and stuff. But I think football, I know there's a lot of money within football, a lot of money, sponsorship deals, television rights, and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of money. So, and it is a results driven business. So you need to obviously be on top of your game constantly. But I think some teams do jump too quickly to sack a manager, and it may be the right time, obviously, because there is the World Cup and stuff going on at the moment. So it gives them an opportunity to, obviously, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, have your mini pre-season, do some warm weather training and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I get it, but at the same time, I'm a little bit sick of managers being given the chop.
Yeah.
So quickly. I mean, Arteta could have been sacked about 4 or 5 times over the last 2 and a bit years or 3 and a bit years. I'm glad that we stuck with him because we're kind of seeing the fruits of his labour as it stands at the moment. But yeah, they're not going to get relegated, are they?
No.
And it only takes Celtic to then have 3 bad results for them to be right back into it.
Yeah, we said they've only lost 2 games all season, 3 draws, the rest of wins, 15 games played. Do you think that potentially the fact that Gerrard is available has come into the situation, or come into that thinking of potentially like, well, we know it was good under him. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. It was the best spell of football we've had in a long, long time. And there's the potential for him to come back and re-bring that philosophy back to the club. Do you think that had maybe something to do with the decision?
Quite possibly. Sorry, I've just realised I didn't answer your question in the slightest, or for your original question. Steven Gerrard, back at Rangers. No, I don't think they will go for him, in all honesty.
You think it'll be a one and done rather than trying to relive what they had?
Exactly.
Right.
And we've already seen him jump ship for a better opportunity that come around.
Yep.
And do they want that again in a year's time? Say, for example, they get Steven Gerrard back into Rangers. He ends up winning the league again. Some other team like Wolves or someone recruit, sack their manager, and then they need another top level manager, I suppose. There is a potential he's going to jump ship again.
Yeah.
So I would say for Rangers, nah, he's had his chance. He did well. I think you're only going to possibly damage your reputation. I think Neil Lennon at Celtic.
Yeah.
I know he did 2 stints there. I think I actually might still be there.
I don't know off the top of my head if he's still.
But anyway,
I know the second his second stint wasn't as good as the first one, was it?
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's potentially a bad thing if they were to go for Rangers. If they were to go for Gerrard again, because they could see it when a better opportunity comes up, he's just going to leave them high and dry again. But with the success they had with him, it wouldn't surprise me if he did go back.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So I think moving on quite swiftly, Ronaldo, the second half of the interview came out. Obviously, we discussed it in its full length. Since then, he's sort of been barred from returning to Manchester United. We see some confusing pictures of him turning up and shaking Bruno Fernandes's hand, sort of a bit of a sour reception. And Manchester United were reportedly taking steps in trying to sue him personally for sort of disparaging their character. So his Manchester United career is over, which is sort of what we anticipated he wanted. And obviously Benzema got injured and he's ruled out for the rest of the season in the lead up to this World Cup. Ronaldo's offered himself. And I think he's offered himself free of charge to Real Madrid. Do you think they may take up that offer as a replacement?
100%. And I think if he's offered to do it free of charge, he's said countless times that he wants to play Champions League football, which is why he wanted to leave Manchester United at the end of end of last season. Sorry, wanted to play Champions League football again. Hasn't been picked recently, so I think, as much as this was I need to wear my story, I think it's quite obviously I want to wear my story because I want out of the club. Yeah. And I don't really care if it damages my reputation. I'm still one of the best footballers in the world. Still at 37 years old. I can still I can still do a job. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I think even if he was to take a significantly reduced wage, I think Real Madrid would come in for him. Yeah, 100%. Especially if his contract's been terminated.
Yeah, we say he's done nothing but sing their praises, and the fact he is fit for the opener against Ghana, and still theoretically could go on a fair run, take Portugal, they're not a bad team, to the latter stages of this World Cup, proving to Manchester United once again that I think they're in the wrong. So with that, the aftermath of his interview, the shirt sponsor of Manchester United, TeamViewer, are weighing up pulling the plug on their shirt sponsorship, which is the remaining fee that they're looking at pulling out is $235 million. I don't know why it's always done in US dollars, but it is. It's a huge chunk of cash, and once again showing that there may be some more truths in what's being said, or at least people don't want to be associated with the Glazers and Manchester United any longer. It's not the first shirt deal that's been pulled. Do you think there may be, just as Manchester United look like they're on the turning that ship around from where it was since Ferguson left, do you think this may be a point where it's sort of like that iceberg moment, and they sink right back down the league again?
It's either going to go one or two ways. I think it's really difficult for it to make any sort of predictions. And I know this is me being really boring and sitting on the fence again, but it's so hard because it's either going to go one of two ways. Obviously, one's, as you just said, tip of the iceberg, and they end up, or this being the hitting of the iceberg, and we do see it affect the club, the team, morale. and they could end up tanking.
Yeah.
Just as you said, the tide was turning on that. However, it could also be kind of like a bit of a kick up the arse for them, and they'll want to go out and have a point to prove. I know one man is not a team, but when you've got someone that's a Ballon d'Or winner, a legend of any club that he's been to, one of the best footballers ever, coming out and giving such, as I mentioned last week, such a damning indictment of of that particular football club.
Yeah,
it's going to be very hard for Manchester United to kind of disprove all these claims and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I know there's certain things that they can come out and just say, oh, it's just not true, blah, 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 blah. But I really don't know. I personally think, here we go, I personally think this is going to be a kick up the arse for Man U that I don't really want to see, because they do have some absolute quality within their team. Obviously, we've seen Ronaldo being left out of the team just recently, and they have been much better than when he has been in the team. Granted, Harry Maguire was a contributing factor to that as well. But I do think this is going to be a rocket up the backside for Manchester United to make Ronaldo look like the bad person.
Almost in a sense of, look, we are spending money. Look, we are updating things. Look, it's not all true. It's just what he's trying to say. I get what you mean by that. I think only time will tell. Now, I think a good way to go on with this, because there is something else that's come out, but I'm sure people will know about it around Manchester United. I don't really want to mention it again because the guy's an arsehole, but his court date's now next year. That's as much as I'm going to say on it, because he doesn't deserve the time of day. But a young prospect, the only England player not to be playing in the Premier League, Jude Bellingham. For me, today, man of the match against Iran. He was everywhere. Absolutely brilliant. Scored the opener. Now, my money would be on him being player of the tournament if he carries on with performances like that. Do you think that potentially his ability and class in that first game is going to build too much pressure on him as a young person? He's only 19, to carry England for the rest of it, or do you think it will only lead to good things?
I genuinely think it will lead to good things, because he was involved in the Euros, wasn't he? He was even younger then, so would have been 17, 18 at the time. It didn't seem to faze him then. He's got a very mature head on his shoulders, and I think that could be said for some of the other players within the England team, i.e. your Sakas. You got Mason Mount and all the others. It is a fairly young squad. I do agree with you. I thought it was absolutely brilliant today. And it very much strikes me as kind of like how Calvin Phillips, when he first broke onto the England scene, how well, how well he did. Because I'll be completely honest, I didn't really know who Calvin Phillips was when he first broke onto the England team. Didn't really pay much attention to him.
The Yorkshire Pirlo.
Sorry?
The Yorkshire Pirlo.
Yeah. Well, I know that now. But I think this is going to be an excellent platform for him. And it wouldn't surprise me, because I know obviously he's playing in the Bundesliga at the moment. It wouldn't surprise me, and I know his name's been touted out a few times for the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City, and I think Manchester United there was even a link for him in the last transfer window. So I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps going on the way he's going within the first match, replicated in others. It wouldn't surprise me, A, if he is player of the tournament, but B, we see him in the Premier League next season. I think you might be right. And I think, if I'm honest, that performance has only increased his transfer value. Hypothetically, if he carries on like that and we win the World Cup, I think any transfer for him will end up being a new world record. Yeah, that's my gauge on it. But
every week we do some predictions. Now, last week for the World Cup opener, we did have a separate special show, so I hope you all tuned in for that. We only have one game to predict this week. But before we get to that, I think it's time for a quick recap as to who got what the current scores are, and what we're playing for. So, Mike, what were the games we predicted last week, and who did well and who didn't?
Okay. So we obviously picked the World Cup opener. I'll try that again. We picked the World Cup opener, which was Qatar versus Ecuador, and the second game that we predicted was Iran versus England.
Yeah.
Qatar versus Ecuador. I think you were slightly ambitious with your predictions. You went for 7-1 to Ecuador, and I went 3-1. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier on, and for those who have seen it, the score was 2-0. So it's a point each for the correct result, but not the correct score.
Yeah.
The Iran versus England, you had 1-1, and I had a 2-1. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, given the brand of football that was played during the Nations League or the recent Nations League campaign.
Yep.
But quite easily 6-2 winners. So I get a point and nothing for you because you predicted a draw. So 2 points to me, 1 point to you for this week. For last week. And the scores, I have regained a 2-point lead. So I am now on 29. You are on 27. The game that we are going to predict this week, I think it's very early on in the competition. So we'll just keep it nice and simple for the England fixtures at the moment. Obviously, it'll give us a chance to look at some more important fixtures or bigger fixtures coming up over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we'll get the opening games out of the way. But England versus USA is the next prediction for our Thursday or Friday, I think it is.
Friday at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, yes. What is the before I make my prediction, what is the current score between Wales and England?
Wales and England hasn't kicked off yet, but I believe it's still 1-0.
Wales and USA.
I believe it's still 1-0. And as you can see, the lovely trophy to my right, possibly left, I don't know what side of the screen it will turn up, is what we play for. This is the predictions trophy, and I currently hold it. Mike has had it for 2 seasons now, but last year I let him have a little lead, let him think he was going to retain it again, and we brought it home, much like England or not. So, Mike, you're dressed as England. You're not bringing this home. It's staying right here with me. England versus USA. Let's get into that game, shall we? Now, I'm sure some of you will be aware that my prediction is England will go out at the group stage. The 6-1 didn't really do that prediction any favours, but that doesn't necessarily reflect what is going to happen from now. So I think this game will be our first loss of the tournament. Or will it? I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. I think... What did I say? I think I'm going to go with a loss. I think that going forward, we will dominate again, but we will be caught out by some of the younger, faster players that the USA have, and I think we'll probably set up a little bit more negatively, especially being as if they're coming into the game with 3 points, we're going to play for a point, which is the wrong way round to do it, and I think they're going to nick us 3-2.
3-2, okay.
That's my prediction. I wanted to go 1-0, but no, I think we'll definitely score, but I think we'll be left open at the back 3-2.
Okay, well, I know for a fact that we've got Arsenal's young backup keeper in goal for the USA, Matt Turner. Haven't really seen him as a standout goalkeeper. I mean, he's been fairly solid in his appearances in an Arsenal shirt. Does seem to have a bit of a flap in him, though. But we have, I think, a slight advantage where we've got a couple of players within the England ranks, i.e. Saka and Ben White, where we could kind of exploit any weaknesses, because obviously they see him every day in training. So we'll know how he works. But, in fact, no but at all. From the performance that we saw today, like I said, I was quite surprised with how offensive we were in that fixture, and I can only see us kind of building on that, because I think once we get this game out of the way, it does make life a lot easier for the game against Wales. So I am going to go for. I think I'm going to be a bit more reserved on. I think I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to England on this one.
Fair enough. It's not unplausible or implausible, but I don't know. I think Harry Maguire being out makes us stronger, which is sort of bottled my plan up for what's going to go on. But hopefully he's fit and well and he plays and mucks up again. It's bad to say that, isn't it? But I feel like if I get involved and get excited about England, we'll just be disappointed anyway. If I'm aiming for disappointment, I can only be excited. So yeah, let us know in the comment section below on the YouTube channel what your predictions are for the England-USA game on Friday. I don't think there's much more that's really gone on apart from the start of the World Cup this week in football. Have you got anything else to add to it, Mike?
No, nothing really from me, other than just WSL was kind of heating up a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, we did see the Arsenal girls get beaten in a last-minute goal against Manchester United. So it's good to see that one kind of heating up a bit, and could be an excellent season again.
Yep.
Going down to the wire, but nothing really from me other than that.
Very good. Well, on that note, then we will leave it with a final message of it's not coming home, and we'll see you